That's right. Fresh tensions are brewing between the United States and Canada, and this on account of suspension of trade talks between both the sides. President Donald Trump has said on a post on Truth Social, he says that Canada wants the benefits of being a state without being one. In fact, this came up after 50% of tariffs were imposed by the United States on nearly $25 billion worth of goods and services. Mark Carney, in a detailed social media post, he said that he's ordered his trade team to return from the United States. And of course, he's announced the suspension of trade talks between both the sides. In fact, in that very post, he calls the US's demands excessive and uneconomic. He says that Canada will begin retaliatory measures on September 8th, and these are going to target the US's steel and dairy industries. And in fact, it was the last minute change in the United States proposed terms that Carney has mentioned in his post. But perhaps that was the reason for the suspension of these talks. And he said that, these terms, these proposed terms, last minute change in these terms, that was unfair, that was uneconomic, and that was unreliable. And America is altering all its trade relationships, is what the Canadian Prime Minister said. And in fact, he also announced that Canada is going to respond dollar to dollar. And remember, what's important and critical to note here is the fact that this breakdown of talks has happened just days after both the sides sounded optimistic of a trade deal between United States and Canada. So not only does this put into jeopardy the trade ties and, of course, the trade between both the sides, which touch $880 billion in 2025, but also the future of the USMCA agreement, which is now under question.